We are coming to you from Tennessee, and I am sharing one of the most exciting upgrades I have ever done to our van. We actually started this power overhaul in Arizona. We finished it in Texas, and we have been quietly putting this Lithionics power system to the test. So in today's video, we're breaking down why we chose Lithionics for our van and the key features and benefits that make this system a complete game changer for our van. So through this video, I will be walking you through the installation process, showing you exactly what it takes to install this. This video is in partnership with Lithionics, but as always, we're gonna be keeping it real and honest with you guys. So stick around to the end. I'll give you my honest review of this system. I'll share with you how it has changed van life for us, and do I think it's worth it for your rig? And if you have any questions while you're watching, drop them in the comments. Now that we're on the road full time, we needed a battery upgrade. Our battery system is relatively small at 200 amp hours, and the batteries are mounted underneath the van. So I wanted to reach out to Lithionics to see if we could do an upgrade, and they sent us this. This is their 320 amp hour battery. There are some really cool features in this battery. First off, it's in a metal case, the only one that I know of in the industry that has that. Also, it has a Bluetooth app that you can connect directly to the battery so you can monitor what's going on. This will definitely help with troubleshooting in the future. The other key thing is I wanted to move our batteries inside our van to protect them. And so that's what we're gonna end up doing today. So I wanted to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Lithionics. So in order to get this battery installed in our van, the first thing I need to do is modify this cabinet. So I actually started by taking the drawers off so I could do some measurements, making sure everything fits. And now I just need to get into this cabinet, do some modifications, so that we can store it here inside the van. After that, we'll go down underneath the van, remove the batteries, all the wiring, everything that's underneath there. I will reuse some of those components, and then we'll wire everything back up and start testing it. But one thing I do need to let everybody know, Lithionics recommends a professional to install these. I am not a professional, so take my advice and my suggestions at your own risk. Things always sound easier than they actually are. So the first thing I'm going to tackle is just getting it mounted here in the cabinet. So my first step will be to actually take the divider out between these two shelves. It's not supporting anything, so all I'm going to do is cut along this black line that I drew. That will still allow me to use the doors and the drawers and everything kind of normally, but will give me access, you know, between the two cabinets so that I can basically put the battery in there and then mount it tight against the cabinet wall and secure it. Now, I need to get my favorite tool, the hammer. There. And that's why this is my favorite tool.
It won't slide around?
So I have a couple of straps ordered that I'm going to use to secure that in place so that it can't slide basically left to right. So obviously front to back is fine because it's in a box and it's nice and tight already. And then that'll also secure it from being able to lift up. What this will allow me to do is I can punch through right here to get access to go underneath the van to kind of the bus bars and some of the existing wiring system that's there, in addition to anything that I need to get access up here, which is where the inverter and some of the 120 volt and 12 volt DC distribution is at. So I've got good access for everything. But first, I just wanted to take a moment and say, man, what a nice way that fits in there. It's just the perfect size, and it is a huge upgrade from what we currently have. Our two 100 amp hour batteries, so a total of 200 amp hours, is, I don't even know the nice word to use here. It pales in comparison to the capabilities of this system between the Bluetooth and all the other smart components that are built into it. I'm really excited to have this upgrade. The reasons that I wanted to choose Lithionics, first and foremost, was a brand name that's, you know, here in the US. The casing is metal so that they are actually more secure than if they were just in a plastic case. They're lighter than the traditional kind of lithium iron phosphate batteries. The capacities of the battery at 320 amp hours, and then all of the electronics that kind of come built in. So the BMS, the Bluetooth connectivity, you know, all those things. They're just awesome. I'm excited about using them. Now we have to move on to the fun stuff. Disconnecting the existing 12-volt batteries and all of the wiring and components that are underneath the van. There's these two really big metal brackets that the batteries kind of sit in and are protected by. So we're going to lose a lot of that weight that's underneath the van, and any of the potential clearance problems will all be eliminated because now we'll have this single battery up here. All right, I'm not sure where I left you guys off, but I have gone ahead and prepped the back of the van and have the battery installed kind of where it's supposed to be. Now I need to crawl underneath the van, disconnect the batteries, and start removing some of those components underneath there. So first, let me show you where we're at with what's under the van. But back here at the back of the van, oh, hang on. So this is the main distribution for the electrical system in the van. You have things like alternator charger coming in here. You've got your batteries here. You've got your inverter power, both, you know, going to the system and then coming back for all that good stuff. This is your ground on this side. You've got all of your main components right here at the back of the van. If you have a generator, this is where that would be. This, I don't have to do too much here other than just disconnect the leads for the battery, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. But if I get back here, so right here is one of the battery banks, and what I need to do is basically disconnect all of that. I'm going to take that steel cage that's right there, take that out. And there's also one kind of just in front of that at the front of the van. Let's see if I can maybe see over here. It's like way up there, kind of in that area right there. I am going to lift up one side of the van so that I can get a little bit easier access, and I'm going to start disconnecting all of the wiring, all of the batteries, the cages, all that stuff, remove all of those components so that I can then get up here and start, you know, rewiring everything to get it to the new battery. So now let me go chock the front wheels. Now that I have the van lifted up just a little bit to make access a little bit easier, trying to pull the batteries and all the components out, but it should be as simple as reach up on top, disconnect my power, make sure that it's, you know, safe, and then I can undo these bolts on the side here and here to lower this whole battery component, or this whole battery box cage down. That'll give me some better access to the top of the battery as well. And then I will repeat the same thing there in the back. All right, guys, this is really difficult to shoot, but I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this other battery. I went ahead and took a bunch of pictures of all of the electrical wiring and how everything is kind of currently configured so that I have that for record. I'm gonna go ahead and start taking off all of the electrical components so I can get this wired up. It is quite challenging to do. There's just not a lot of room. I will say, all of the big cables that I was worried about are actually all like, not labeled, but they're striped with colors, so it makes it a little easier to track them all down. That was actually easy to do, but difficult to get to. I have removed all the wiring from this. I will come back here later. I need a deep well impact wrench, I think, to remove these easily. Then I will basically just pull those down. get this thing out of here, remove some weight, increase our ground clearance a little bit. Okay, so this is where the new battery is going to live, and I need to rerun some of the wires that were underneath the van, basically up through the existing hole that's in the van, and then just reroute the wires over there. Sounds super simple. I have a feeling it's going to be quite the fight. So now I have both of the negative cables from the battery bank right here. So I've got both ends. One of these is going to go back up inside the van and be connected to the new battery. I just pushed it through because it was much easier to push it than pull it. I think I'm gonna go reconnect this end to the battery safe relay, and then basically put this in the vicinity of the battery bank, and then I think we'll go from there. Reused yellow cable from front battery. That'll be my positive coming off the new battery. Have to wire in the fuse and a bunch of other stuff. Reused red cable from rear battery, and that'll be the negative side. That red cable goes here. The yellow cable will go underneath the van on the positive bus bar down here. I just need to grab some more tools and get that on. Took a little bit of finagling, but maybe. I thought I had it. Connected. Put this nut on. All right, I'm gonna get this last cable out from underneath the van, and then I'll head upstairs. I'll head up into the van and pull the remaining control cables for the Balmar and the battery safe relay up there. And then it's just a matter of finishing up, securing the cables and removing those battery cages, I guess I'll call them. So I got the other power cable. I got some work to do to clean that all up, but I'll deal with that later. But that is all now run into this box, which I can then install the fuse, get everything wired. I'll be good. This wired, everything's looking good there. I got everything kind of secured and looking halfway decent in there. I just need to go ahead and put this back. I'll put this cover plate on and then go secure underneath. Man, getting a little slower and stiffer as I get older. I believe everything inside the van is done with the exception of the final wiring up to the battery. I'm saving that for last. I want to make sure everything else is done before I start tying into that stuff, just to make sure I don't have any loose ends and everything is good and tight. I have to say though, kind of excited about this right here. We've got Balmar controls, we've got our fuses, we got everything we need right inside there. Just got to figure out how to get it all mounted and secured. It's looking good. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and power up the Lithionics battery for the first time. There is a power switch right here on the top of the battery. I'm going to push it. The blue light is on. I just heard the inverter kick on. Let's go check all the electronics up front. Inverter's on. I have to wait for the Balmar to start. I actually need to reprogram this. We'll turn that on, and then this should start up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some updating on the Balmar, wait for everything to kind of get started up and check on everything, and then I'll also log into the Lithionics battery and check that as well. So it's going well. Actually, the inverter was on, so I know that part works. I am so excited to see if this all works properly and I got it done right. I checked and double checked, so stay tuned. All right, guys, I am super excited to share that I've got everything working The inverter's working, the solar power is working, the batteries are functioning correctly. So we are off to a great start. I do need to check with Lithionics. I just want to run through a couple of parameters, make sure I've got everything set up properly. Some of the information that they provided prior, I don't have those options, and so I just need to double check to make sure everything's okay. But with all that said, I am super stoked that these batteries are in and installed. Everything is working. Now we need to put them to the test and see how they perform. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys, I'm not sure where I left you off. It's been a couple of days. We were in Arizona installing the battery, but now we are in Texas. And Lithionics originally sent us an ACR with this battery, but I ended up not needing it. And so had to wait for a part to arrive, and that's what we've been waiting on to finish up this video. So this is the final component that I need to install. Essentially what it's doing is it's talking to the alternator to make sure it doesn't overcharge the battery. So I need to get access to the battery, plug this in, rewire this to some components I've already pre-wired. And then, just for some safety, I'm going to secure the battery down. It's actually kind of secure now, but this will also be an additional layer of protection. So those are the two things I'm going to get done today, and then we will be done and we will test this alternator charging. So we've got W1 and W2. I've already pre-wired W1 and W2 to the alternator charger controller, which is right here behind the inverter. So simply need to plug this in and crimp these wires down, and then this side's done. So we are good with that. All right, that was the most critical piece. Now I want to do some additional like security just to make sure the battery doesn't move around while we are driving. Because we tend to go, I don't want to say off-road, but we tend to be a little more aggressive with our van. So I am going to have to kind of lift this battery up and slide it out so that I can get these brackets back behind it. It's been a minute since I last touched bases with you guys on our battery, but I finally have the right parts. I had to order and reorder, and anyway, I'll spare you all the details, but I finally have a strap long enough to secure down the battery. So I'm going to finish that up today, and then that will completely wrap up this project. So let me show you what I'm going to do. Come on in here. I'm going to slide the battery out. I installed these little hooks. I'm going to wrap the strap around, come up and over the battery, and then I will install this bracket at the front of the battery so that it can't slide, but then we will basically secure everything down and loop it through and ratchet it nice and tight. Well, that's going to wrap us up for our battery installation. Now I just need to go ahead, put this bed back together, get the mattress in here, get everything all put back together so we can hit the road and test these batteries out. I'm really excited with all the features that they have. Everything from the power button that's on the top, the ease of connecting the alternator charging, the size of the battery at 320 amp hours, the built-in BMS system with a 200 amp circuit on there. Don't quote me on that. With the built-in BMS system, these batteries completely changed van life for us, so I'm super excited. Stay tuned. Whew, that was a lot of work. So if you guys have been watching our videos, you know that we've been making lots of upgrades and changes to the van, and this is kind of out of sequence. So to kind of get you up to speed of where we currently are at here on November 14th is we have completed our solar upgrade. So we have now 400 watts of solar on our roof. We have upgraded the ball mar and installed a Bluetooth controller, so we have more control over that with all of the alternator charging capabilities and functions. And now we have completed the install of the Lithionics battery. So that kind of gets you up to speed. And it's been an absolute game changer with this battery. With this battery upgrade, we have been able to boondock for a much longer period of time. And when we've decided to stay, at an RV park, it had nothing to do with our power or battery or anything like that. It was primarily just for needs like laundry, dumping our tanks, and filling up with water. I love the app being able to monitor it. I'm able to pull up the app on my phone while we're driving or camped out, take a look at what's going on with the battery and monitor everything that's going on, the inputs, the outputs. I can go in and look at all of the details for the individual cells. I can see if there's alarms going on. It is a very useful app that helps me monitor in real time exactly what's going on with the battery. So when we arrived at our boondocking spot, our battery was at 100%. We made a pizza in our oven, and it pulls between 1,000 and 1,500 watts. And I think we cooked for about 12 to 13 minutes. We used 8% of the battery. That's pretty awesome.
Is that?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I can also then compare that against the ball mar and our alternator charging. I can also compare that to our solar charge controller. So having all of those data points allows me to accurately and confidently monitor what's going on with our battery and knowing exactly what's going on. So how has this battery changed van life for us? I think the best way to sum it up is confidence. Confidence having the app being able to monitor what's going on, confidence in the capacity of the batteries, being able to extend our van life adventures, and not having to go to RV parks unless we want to. So the other question was, do we think a Lithionics upgrade would be worth it for your rig? And I have to honestly say, absolutely. The battery design, construction, the app, the things that are included like the BMS, all of those combined make it worth every penny to install those and upgrade them in your rig. There's only one thing that I would consider doing differently, and that's having more capacity. I don't know if we necessarily need it, but it would be awesome to have a second battery having 640 amp hours of battery. That would be crazy because we do work from the road. So we need to be able to power things like Starlink, and we have multiple laptops, we have cameras and all the things that we need in order to create content like this. Having all of that battery capacity would be awesome. I don't know if it's necessary.
It's overkill.
Be a little overkill.
Because we haven't had to need it the whole time.
I know.
You just want it.
But it would be so cool to have.
You just want it, that's all.
So I wanted to give a huge shout out to Lithionics for sending this battery to us. It has changed van life for us, and we appreciate that. Here's the website to Lithionics if you guys are interested in upgrading your system, and we'll leave a link in the description below. All right, that's all we have for today. We'll see you in the next one.